foremost scholars who has taken on the patriarchy head-to-head, being Marguerite Rigoglioso, is coming forward. She is one of the priestesses who has a mystery school, and I understand the mystery schools are the fastest growing movement in America now. There are more mystery schools that are coming up. And so Marguerite has done some incredible scholarly work. She has 2 fabulous books, but she's going to take us on a journey about the actual ascension and resurrection of these women and tell us a little more deeply.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I feel like the priest in church where they start that tradition. So I'm talking tonight about the resurrection of Mary and the Magdalene. And because normally Easter is celebrated as the resurrection of Jesus, but there were the resurrections of these 2 women as well, who were intimately involved in this story. And as some of you know, I have 2 books in which I lay out the idea that there were priestesses of divine birth throughout the entire ancient Mediterranean world, and that Mary was just a part of a very long stream that went on not only throughout the ancient Mediterranean world, but the entire world beyond. So what we find out is that Mary is in this lineage, and it is she who is actually divinely born of her mother Anne, a story that we really don't hear about except in the infancy gospel of James. And what this tells us is that there was a practice that involved sometimes maidens giving birth and sometimes crones giving birth past their menopausal years, as is the case with Anna. And so when Mary is 3 years old and she is dedicated to the temple, she is dedicated as a temple virgin with the hopes that she too is going to be in this lineage of giving divine birth. This is what we hear in the infancy gospel. It is not a gospel that's in the canonical Bible, but it is something that is embraced in the Eastern Orthodox tradition, and it is also the basis of all of the Catholic feast days. So at 3 years old, Mary is presented as at the temple, and she never looks back at her parents. She is brought to work with the undefiled daughters of the Hebrews. That is the virgins of the temple. What is it that they are teaching her? Well, they are teaching her how to conceive divinely. And at some point, when Mary is of the menstrual years, she can no longer be in the temple. This is a patriarchal period in which, when women actually start coming into their power, they are ejected from the place of power. But nonetheless, she is brought back. She is brought back as one of the 7 virgins who is going to do a weaving ritual. And it is as she is doing this weaving ritual that she conceives, which tells us that this is no mere weaving ritual. She and these 7 women are weaving together. They are weaving together in their DNA, in their wombs, trying to bring forth high, holy level beings. And Mary is one of them who is able to do this of the 7. The other person who is able to do this of the 7 is her cousin Elizabeth, who is postmenopausal, and Elizabeth conceives John the Baptist. And we have that famous scene from this infancy gospel where Mary and Elizabeth greet one another, and the babies leap in their wombs because they know their destiny is sealed. We then move forward to the end of Mary's life, which brings us to the topic of today. It is said that she was, quote, assumed into heaven, a very nebulous term. But what that really means is that these holy women, upon their own death, would also go through a ritual, just the way Jesus did. And this ritual would be to divinize themselves. And so this idea, this vague term, the Assumption, actually means that Mary had an ascension and she had a resurrection onto the other side, onto the veil, beyond the veil, where she was then able to act as a goddess. She assumed full goddesshood, which is why we consider her both a woman and a goddess, because she had both statuses eventually in her life. And we can call upon her as someone to help us in time of need. At her death, it was said, there is a legend that arose that in her tomb, Thomas, the Apostle Thomas, went to find her and could not find her. There were only the garments of her clothes left, just like we have with Jesus. So this is telling us that she even went rainbow body, as they say in the Tibetan tradition, where the body just simply disappears and the soul moves on into a rainbow form. Here we see what is considered one of her houses in Ephesus, and then this is considered one of her tomb, actually, in Jerusalem. There we have this Assumption image. It is said the Catholic Church celebrates her dormition, meaning that she went to sleep, but she did not go to sleep. She went into a deep altered state trance, and then 3 days later it was that she ascended and resurrected. So there we have an image of the sacred feminine who is coming into her own divine power through the dimensions. And what we have is the appearance of this name, Miriam or Mariam, many times. We know it as Mary. And this is telling us that this was not just a female name, this was a Hebrew title that meant beloved of. And this, I believe, is a title that denoted these sacred holy women who were either able to divinely conceive or they were in orders that supported divine conception. Or, on the other side of this, they were divine tantrika priestesses like the Magdalene. And we know that we are now finding evidence that she was Jesus' favorite apostle. They had some kind of physical relationship, and there are legends that they actually had a child together. So what I am talking about is that with all these names of the Marys in the Bible, we're talking about a holy order, and we're talking about a holy order that we are resurrecting today. And in some of these rituals that many of us in this processional today have been involved in, we are reclaiming and proclaiming this order of the Marys. Like the order of the Magdalenes, it is something open to anyone who feels the affinity and the call. Now we hear of another ascension story, which, as Christy mentioned earlier, is the legend that Mary Magdalene, at the end of her life, living in the cave in Saint-Aubin, was lifted up 7 times a day by the angels. She was going into ecstatic, altered state experiences, and she would hear celestial music, the harmony of the spheres, essentially. So this was her preparing herself for crossing over once she was to leave her body as well. And where we hear that she received some of these teachings is in the Gnostic Gospel of Mary. This is a document that was found dated to the early 2nd century of the Common Era. Mary Magdalene is the speaker in this gospel, and it is Peter who says to her, "Please tell us what the Savior taught us, for there are things that he let you know about that we do not know." So she begins to teach, and she begins to teach something that to Peter sounds so strange that he actually denounces her and challenges her. And then, as we know, it is Peter who is able to claim ascendancy over the entire Catholic Church rather than the Magdalene. But what she teaches is that the soul, on its death, goes through various rungs of the other realm, rungs of hell, if you will, on its journey to ascension, it must encounter these various 7 powers, also known as adversaries. And some of the pages of this gospel are missing, but what we do know is that there are 7 starting with darkness. We don't know what the soul does regarding darkness, but we do know what happens when the soul encounters the adversary or the power of desire. Desire is going to challenge you. It's going to say, you belong to me. You are connected to the material world. Don't think you can get out of it. And it's your chance to say, no, you are looking at garments that I took on in this particular lifetime, but that is not me. My soul is something else. My soul is beyond this. And when you say that to this power, you are able to go to the next rung. So these are codes for ascension that Jesus was giving Mary Magdalene, and that Mary Magdalene was giving the whole world through this hidden gospel that is now coming to light. The next power that the soul encounters is ignorance. Once again, ignorance will challenge you and say that you belong to it. And you must say, no, you are not me. I am not you. I am not ignorant. I was ignorant, but I am moving beyond ignorance to something higher. And then the soul encounters the 4th power, which is known as the powers of wrath. And this is a combination power that is very, very intense. It is a combination of all of the forms: darkness, desire, ignorance, zeal for death, realm of the flesh, foolish wisdom of the flesh, and wisdom of the wrathful person. Each one of those could be dissected and understood. The bottom line here is that for each one of those powers that you encounter, you must say, no, as strong as your pull is to me and my pull is to you, I am not you. I am something more pure. That was only a garment I took on. I'm moving forward. And what happens is that as the soul moves through those 7 powers and finally passes the test, it is able to rest in silence. This is what we hear in this gospel. Silence, we know from other Gnostic gospels, is the goddess, the original goddess of all things. She is at the origin. She is the indwelling. She is the external. And the soul will dwell for an eon with silence, essentially in the womb of the Great Mother. Your ascension is imminent, meaning it is upon you. This is the time now. And it is also imminent in the sense that it is indwelling. It is an inscension. It's not a matter of popping out of your body. It's a matter of going deeper into your body, deeper into the oneness of it all. This is what we are all looking at today. This is why so many of us are having challenges. This is why the world is in a great period of challenge. It seems crazier and crazier because we are all getting tested to the max. Our backs are up against the wall. We're going through the sieve. It's painful. But what we are being called to do is to continually breathe, to continually ground, to continually come into our center, to continually remember who we are. We are not the garments of ignorance, darkness, desire, wrath, and so forth. And what is happening is we are coming into our wisdom. We are coming into our oracle wisdom. Men and women, we are coming into the ability to be able to access our information. Christy wanted me to tell you about the fact that I'm helping women to reclaim their oracle power. And she said to me, what would the world be if leaders consulted the oracle before they bombed countries? Just as they accessed the oracles in the past. And that is what we are coming to do here. So Christy and Diana and I have many things that are coming up and available to you. And some of you saw the information that you've been given. So you can take a look at that and see whether you're wanting to step into any of those ceremonies or those oracle abilities yourself. Tonight, we have somebody who's going to be embodying, as an oracle, the Magdalene, Megan Rose Bolivar, who will be in the tomb. So when you come for your anointing in the tomb, we invite you to take a moment before the Magdalene and allow yourself to experience the energies that will be transmitted through this great being, Megan, who has had many initiations with the Magdalene, and along with many women in the room, is bringing this transmission through. And I'm just inviting us all just to feel the silence within. There is the treasure. Blessed be.